Hey everybody, how you doing? I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins from the Black Business School. We're about to get ready to do the world premiere of our film Resurrecting Black Wall Street in Chicago on Saturday at the Harold Washington Center. If you live anywhere on this planet, I guarantee you, no matter how far away you fly from, your life will be changed after this event is over. It's designed that way. We're definitely going for the jugular on this. And we titled the film Resurrecting Black Wall Street because we wanted to resurrect, just dig up the bodies and find out what really happened. Make sure the truth is told. Make sure that people are no longer lied to. If you go to Tulsa, Oklahoma, for example, in the Greenwood section, you'll find black people who live in that area who are not even aware of the story and how extraordinary this is, how significant it was. And so we're trying to dig it up. We're trying to do the CSI and really talk about what happened, label it the right way. It was not a race riot as they called it for many years. It was a massacre. It was where black people were massacred and butchered and killed and shot down in the street like dogs and put in prison. They went through unimaginable amounts of pain and misery. Imagine if somebody coming in your house right now and murdering your whole family and then telling the world that your family got out of line and that's why they had to kill everybody. And then nobody ever correcting this. You would want somebody to correct this falsehood and tell the truth, would you not? Yes, you would. So that's what we're trying to do. That's one reason we're resurrecting Black Wall Street. The other thing we're trying to do is, and the film is actually called The Blueprint at the end. That's the subtitle. Excuse me. Is we're resurrecting the blueprint. We're trying to say, what did O.W. Gurley and these other individuals who built, John Stratford and others, what was their vision? What was their thinking when they created this extraordinary community? What can we all do as a community to build cooperative economic scenarios where we can prosper, we can be kings and queens, we can be strong, we can be prosperous, we can take care of each other, we can protect each other, etc., etc., etc. The answers are out there. We have to just be willing to dig and find the truth on these things. And so another thing that came up that led me to really think about how we would want to rewrite history is this article in Jezebel where there's an author who's writing for Harper's. His name is Dan Baum, and Dan actually quotes a guy named Ehrlichman, who was a member of the Nixon administration, Nixon policy advisor John Ehrlichman. And let me tell you what Ehrlichman said about the war on drugs. And the reason I have to take a deep breath is because it burns me up. It makes me want to grab somebody around the neck and choke them to death. It literally makes me want to kick somebody in the face. It makes me that mad. And I don't think that we have any reason to hide our anger because these are the people we love that they did this to. And I'm going to read to you what it says here. It says, they're talking about the war on drugs that led to the mass incarceration of millions of black men, where Hillary Clinton's husband Bill participated in that war by increasing the sentences, creating mandatory minimums, sending tens of thousands of black men to prison, destabilizing millions of black families. That's who you're voting for. So when they say you have a choice, you don't have a damn choice. You have a choice between one white person who hates you and another white person who despises you. Those are your choices. But anyway, here's what it says. You want to know what this was really all about? He asked with the bluntness of a man after public disgrace and a stretch in federal prison had little to protect. The Nixon campaign in 1968 and the Nixon White House after that had two enemies, the anti-war left and black people. You understand what I'm saying? We knew we couldn't make it illegal to either be against the war or black, but by getting the public to associate the hippies with marijuana and blacks with heroin, and then criminalizing both heavily, we could disrupt both communities. We could arrest their leaders, raid their homes, break up their meetings, and vilify them night after night on the evening news. Did we know we were lying about the drugs? Of course we did. Now I want you to think about what was just said here. And I want you to think about your life right now. I want you to think about your family. Did you have anybody in your family that was ever hooked on drugs? Did you have anybody in your family who ever went to prison? Did you ever have anybody in your family who was maybe killed in drug-related violence? Did you ever have anybody in your family that was traumatized because they grew up in a household where there was a significant destabilization due to incarceration, drugs, or both? Any friends you have who ain't right in the head because that's what they went through? All of this was the result of social engineering that had devastation on a level that puts the Nazi Holocaust to shame. The only difference between what was done to black people and what was done to the Jews in World War II is that what was done to us has been repeated many times throughout history. It lasted far longer, and it had a far broader reach than what happened in Nazi Germany. This was our Holocaust. The war on drugs was a Holocaust on top of a Holocaust, because we had just finished with Jim Crow. Black people in the 60s had just started to gain pride in themselves, had just started to be able to stand up for themselves, had just started to counter the significant miseducation that they'd been fed for hundreds of years. And you know what? They said, we can't have Negroes standing together. We can't have them believing in themselves. We can't have them fighting for any kind of equality. So we're going to disrupt them. We're going to drop drugs into their communities, and then we're going to arrest them for possessing the drugs. It's like when Malcolm X used to say, he said, the white man will sell you the liquor bottle and then lock you up for being drunk. So here's what I'm looking at here. When I read this quote, I don't know if this man Ehrlichman's alive or not, but he and anybody in his administration who was associated with any of this, they should be arrested for war crimes. They should be arrested. They should be put on trial like they had the Nuremberg trials for Nazi soldiers who exterminated Jews. They should have trials in the United States, maybe the Chicago trials, the DC trials, and put on trial these people who are responsible for the extermination of black people. Because that's what it was. It was an extermination program. You know, you saw the Black Panther documentary not too long ago when they went right up in Fred Hampton's house and shot up everything and made sure that he was dead. It was a hit. It was a hit by a group of terrorists, a group of terrorist soldiers who identify themselves as police officers. And then to add insult to injury, these same officers go into the court of law or whatever. Maybe not in this particular case, but it's happened many, many, many times. Not just Hampton. They go into the court of law and a bunch of white jurors let them off, because they say, well, you know, officers are good people and we need to exterminate those Negroes anyway. Those people are bad. You understand? Even during the Nazi Holocaust, they didn't just necessarily tell the German people, oh, we just want to just kill off all the Jews. Some people felt that way, but a lot of people wouldn't have approved of something like that. But what they would say is they would use media to vilify them, as this guy said, night after night after night, to the point where Jews were identified as some sort of virus on society. And when you have a virus, you want to kill it. So black people, historically, for hundreds of years, have been identified, especially the black man, have been identified as a virus on society by being vilified night after night after night with these misportrayals in media. And then they pay black people like Lee Daniels to make shows like Empire, which make us look even bigger coons, so that then they can justify locking you up for anything, as he mentioned, so we could raid their homes, break up their meetings, bring them in front of the judge. Once you're in front of the judge and you're a black man, you're pretty much done. I mean, you're pretty much done. For a black man in America, being accused of a crime is the same as a conviction in many cases, because you don't have the money to pay an expensive lawyer. You're not going to get that jury of 12 people from a white neighborhood to let you go most of the time. I mean, the whole system, the whole process was deliberately rigged against us. And so when I see this, I personally get very upset, because I have had members of my family affected by prison. I've seen them come home with mental illness because of this social engineering that has taken place. I think that this history, that people have to be held accountable for this. And I think any politician who refuses to have a meaningful conversation about reparations is not going to get my vote. I'm not going to tell you who to vote for, but I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do. I'm not voting for none of these damn fools. So, because at the end of the day, if people won't even acknowledge your pain, they're not your friend. If they don't respect your loved ones enough to acknowledge the Holocaust that they went through, I mean a blatant Holocaust that we've gone through as black people, and they won't even acknowledge it in a meaningful way, they're not your friends. They don't respect you. And what's really interesting is that for black people, we've been taught not to even respect ourselves. We've been taught to feel that our pain is numb and dull. It's a duller pain than other people's pain. Many of us, you got Negroes that'll change their Facebook profile for when there's a terrorist attack in Paris, but don't care about the terrorist attacks that happen every week in Chicago, or the fact that far more people have died in Chicago in the last month than died in Paris during those terrorist attacks. So the issue here is how do we love ourselves enough to demand that other people respect us at least? Is our pain going to at least be acknowledged, or are we going to continue to believe this idea that we're just a pack of criminals? This was all created, all this single parent epidemic, this stuff that's going on in the black community. This was not something that happened before the war on drugs took place. If you go back to the 60s, families were more stable. You had fathers in the home. Now you got situations where people don't even want the father in the home anymore. So you got a bunch of black men who are being raised not to be men, but to be women. So all this happens, and what I really think, unfortunately, is that we live in a world where we have to reject damn near everything that the white man feeds us. It doesn't mean that all white people are evil, but it does mean that these systems that they put in place are certainly racist systems, and they're certainly not designed to empower you. So you got to start with everything. You got to question everything. You got to start with that educational system, where that white teacher from the suburbs is looking at your son, trying to put him on medication at an early age so he never ever grows into the man he's meant to be. You need to look at the economic systems, where black people need to learn how to make our own money, build our own businesses. We need to reject and walk away from all this other shit that's out here, where we feel like we got to be mainstream in order to fit in and all this other stuff, when really you end up cooning yourself into oblivion and disappearing from your community and not supporting the people that you allegedly care about. We need to look at the criminal justice system, which people are examining that, but we got to go deeper. You need to look at the mental illness that's being bred in prison and the consistent systematic marginalization of black men that occurs through the criminal justice system. It's not a coincidence that they don't want your black son to vote ever again once he goes to prison for even one crime at the age of 18. That's all a strategy. It's designed to make him a non-factor. The black man has been, since the day we arrived on slave ships, he's been a target for extermination. And in order for your black son to avoid this, you're going to have to bring him into a whole different system. He's going to have to be part of a whole different process. So that's it. I just wanted to talk about this and make you guys aware of the story. Do with this as you wish. Question everything. Go watch that movie, Kill the Messenger. That'll tell you some stories about how all those drugs suddenly appeared in black communities. I mean, we don't manufacture drugs. We don't make guns. White people make guns. So how do all these guns and drugs just keep appearing in our communities? Most of these killings in Chicago, a lot of them are drug related. A lot of them are related to the drugs and guns that just happen to get to black neighborhoods. We can't, if they weren't being supplied, we would have no drugs. We would have no guns, right? So understand how these systems play a part in the creation of the chaos that you see around you, so that instead of getting mad at each other, we get mad at the system. We take the energy and the anger where it belongs. It does not belong on us. It belongs on the people that created this chaos. So that's it. I'm about to get out of here. Speaking of Chicago, again, this Saturday we're going to premiere our film Resurrecting Black Wall Street, The Blueprint. This is part of the Black Economic Empowerment Tour. If you can't make it to Chicago, you can catch us in other cities. You can go to the drboycewatkinstour.com. That's the drboycewatkinstour.com. We're going to go to Houston next, and we're going to go to Baltimore. We're New York. We're about to put New York City on the map, or on our map. New York City is definitely already on the map. We're going to go to some other cities, Memphis and Detroit and DC, and just really spread the gospel of black economic empowerment. A lot of our problems as black people will be solved when we learn how to make our own money. That's why I tell you right now, if you don't hear anything else I tell you, please hear this. Your black child needs to learn how to start a business before they learn how to do anything else. Before they learn how to dance, before they learn how to rap, before they learn how to dribble a basketball, before they learn how to throw a football. You put them in a situation where for 2 or 3 weeks they're being drilled and trained on the fundamentals of starting a business and learning how to make their own money. This will save their life. This will save your child's life. I guarantee it saved my life. When I learned how to be an entrepreneur, that's when I got a chance to be a man. If I was still sitting back trying to coon and get along with these crazy people at Syracuse University, I would be so miserable. I would be so unhappy. And that's what racism does. Racism drives you crazy. And then when you act out and you go crazy, you punch somebody in the face, or you in a mental institution, or you break the law, or you getting high every day because you can't cope, then guess what? They're going to lock you up. They put you in handcuffs and they exterminate you. So I would have been exterminated eventually. I was already being exterminated professionally. They didn't, the things I was doing really wasn't a fit for that environment. So rather than complaining about it, I was able to be a man and build something of my own. And when I built something of my own, I was able to claim my place on the throne. Your son deserves to be on the throne. Your daughter deserves to be a queen. She does not deserve to be somebody's servant. And that's what happens when our children are being sent into other people's economic systems. You're sending them over as servants. The white man he's not going to bring your son into his castle and make him the king. Excuse me. He will make him a servant. or he would make him a court jester. That's it. You're there for my entertainment, boy. Make me laugh. Play a sport for me, boy. That's what you all do very well. Sing for me, boy. Rap for me, boy. That's what you do with a jester, right? So ultimately, I'm gonna go because I gotta get some work done. But I hope you guys are with me on this, and you understand where I'm coming from. It is absolutely essential that we shift the culture in our households, rise above the coonery, turn off the TV, let go of the nonsense, and build your family into something strong. You can do it. You can do it. All right, I'm about to get out of here. Take care, guys. Don't forget, you can check out the drboycewatkinstour.com. Also, if you want to teach your children about wealth, right away, we do have our Black Millionaires of Tomorrow program. So you can go to blackmillionairesoftomorrow.com to go check that out. Take care, guys. I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.